Sound design plays a huge role in how we interpret and experience media. When done right, it can greatly add to someone's enjoyment, and when done wrong, it can greatly detract from someone's enjoyment. Now, I'm not an expert when it comes to stuff like this, but usually you can get a feel for when something works and when something doesn't. It's the sound design and by extension, the music, the OSTs, the vocal tracks, etc, that help to give a certain feel and atmosphere to a show. Happy sounds make you happy, sad sounds make you sad, and Samurai Champloo makes you vibe. The story centers around the three characters, Fu, Mugen, and Jin, as they wander from one place to the next in search of the samurai who smells like sunflowers. And that's basically it. There's really nothing more to the overall narrative aside from what I just described. It's a setup followed by an exploration of characters, settings, and conflicts, and if that sounds relatively standard, that's because it is. But Samurai Champloo isn't charming because of its complexity or depth, but for the exact opposite reason. It's charming because of its simplicity. Whether it be how the episodes are structured or the individual characteristics these three hold, everything Samurai Champloo does or tries to do, for the most part, is grounded in minimalism. There is no grand purpose or larger-than-life reason for our characters' journeys, and because of that, we're able to enjoy and appreciate all the small stops and detours we take along the way. Even if those detours by themselves don't amount to much, the experience they all culminate into is one you'll remember. Now, like I mentioned, sound design matters, and in Samurai Champloo's case, a large part of my enjoyment came from its usage of music and the emotions they invoked. More specifically, it came from the kind of music Samurai Champloo had. The show is literally Sword Fight the anime accompanied by lo-fi beats, which might sound like a weird combo, but it strangely enough makes for both an engaging and relaxing experience. There are these amazingly animated fights for you to gaze at like a dumbass kid, some sick beats for you to vibe to, the fight choreography is dynamic and impactful, and all in all, I love everything about this show's presentation, especially the fight scenes. Whenever Mugen was on screen, I was in for a treat, because he brought this wild and chaotic energy that was really fun to watch. He was essentially an untamed beast who fought purely on instinct and was driven by impulse, and that was perfectly conveyed through his movesets, with him continuously fighting in unorthodox and unpredictable ways. On the opposite end, there's Jin. He's calm, collected, and far more refined, perfectly contrasting Mugen's more bombastic personality. But despite their drastic differences, their bond over the course of the show deepens and a camaraderie forms. They go from literally wanting to kill each other to supporting each other. And that development progresses naturally as the show slowly and methodically builds it up through unspoken dialogue and subtlety. At the core of that friendship is Fu, tying them all together. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, my first impression of this woman was, oh shit, boobies. But to be fair, part of the reason I felt as such was because her character was handled less so as a character and more so as a plot device, at least early on. Samurai Champloo for the most part is episodic, meaning the majority of story arcs starts and ends within the same episode they're introduced or 1 to 2 episodes after, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but the issue I personally had with this was in its repetitive nature. Specifically within the initial episodes, there was this reuse of similar story beats with little to no change, and it would basically go like this. Fu gets captured, Mugen and Jin beat some ass, Fu gets saved, onto the next setting, rinse and repeat. And so initially, I wasn't really feeling the show all too much, and likewise, I wasn't really feeling Fu's character all too much. But thankfully, my opinion changed the further I progressed as I got more and more invested in seeing the characters interact and grow, not just individually, but as a whole. From a trio of strangers to a trio of lifelong friends. Notably, I think when Samurai Champloo focuses on these three and their dynamics, it's at its best. For me, their sibling dynamic in specific was the most enjoyable. They had these little antics, these little jokes, these little moments of connection as well as rejection that wholeheartedly sold me on the believability of their relationship. The three obviously had their grievances, but despite it all, they cared for one another. And while it may have never been explicitly stated, it didn't need to be, because their actions spoke louder than their words. When push came to shove, they were there. The final stretch of this anime is easily my favorite in the show. It spans across 5 or so episodes and brings to light the inevitable farewell that would soon come to be. It asks the question of what happens when you reach the end. After all, this entire journey was set off with a simple quest to find the samurai who smells like sunflowers. It's this quest that united the three and brought them together. But once that link breaks, naturally the three will have to part. And something about that, the idea of a friend you've come to cherish and shared memories alongside, soon to exit your life, is sad to think about. But that's just life. You appreciate these memories, you appreciate these bonds, and in the end, you move forward. Alright, sentimental shit aside, this anime is pretty good. Personally, I don't think it's on the same level of shows like Mob Psycho 100 or the Monogatari series, but for what it is, it's a show you should at least try. It has a very classic feel to it, nostalgic of when anime wasn't nearly as popular as it is today. It has great fights and even greater atmosphere and feel, largely due to the soundtrack and look of the series. There's also some actually funny comedy, and yeah, Samurai Champloo is a series you'll probably end up vibing to. Check it, subscribe, comment, and make sure y'all tune in next time, cause I got one spicy ass manga to talk about. Peace.